Our next presentation is from Bridgepointe, Bridgepointe CX Maturity Model, Contact Center Self-Assessment. Thank you guys very, very much.
You want to kick us off, Mr. Teixeira?
So just a quick introduction. What we're trying to do, we've always wanted to do this for the NECCF group. There are certain things that most contact center leaders rely on, whether it's measuring against the business you have today, measuring against your peers somewhere else. There's all kinds of companies that come out and do assessments, right? And most of the some of the challenges with those assessments are sometimes they're slanted. What Cheryl has come up with is a self-assessment. And what she's going to go through is the methodology behind it, what we do, what we're going to offer the NECCF, and hopefully everybody likes it. I think it's great.
Okay, thank you. So how many of you, if you don't mind showing your hands, have ever had a maturity assessment? Do you know what a maturity assessment is? Okay. So if you went to school or you have children in school, you know that teachers use a rubric, and the rubric lets them understand where in the progress of learning a student might be. So this uses the same methodology and mentality. So we'll go ahead and just start by understanding, do you know if your contact center is really operating at the level that you desire it to be? So we have built this proprietary model. We used our industry expertise within our large consulting team to develop the content that we would be giving you a self-survey on. So the maturity model is really, it's structured framework. So it's generic. It's not written to a specific industry, because we do find the mechanics, the foundation of a contact center, no matter what vertical you're supporting, needs to have these elements. So we can assess your current state, and then we can evaluate people, process, and technology. We want to make sure that we're looking at that full environmental scope within the contact center. And it's not just contact center, it is customer experience. So there is some self-support components in it. So if you use this tool, the idea is that you have a way to be able to optimize and drive yourself to the next level, improving your business success. It's intended to give you something very quantifiable. I mean, how many of you have had to go to your management and you have a feeling, or you feel like this needs to be something that needs to be done, or you want to move to this next level? So what we've done is we've helped you understand what those steps are in maturity. Ultimately, when you get done, you have a roadmap and you can see the areas where you're less mature and you want to become more mature. So it gives you a really quantifiable roadmap to be able to do that. This tool can be used by organizations of all types. We give you the ability to say, this section is not applicable to me. So there's not a final score. There is, each area is scored, but it gives you that roadmap of where you might want to work. And it is meant to cover all the areas of the CX organization. So what does it do for you? I've been in a position to where I need to go to executives. I need to ask for more money. We have a client right now that doesn't realize that they have to stop using supervisors to be trainers, to be QA, and to be workforce management. So we use this tool to explain you really need to mature to the point to where you have these separate functions. I see a few heads shaking, so you know what this is all about. And those poor people are about ready to quit because they're overwhelmed because performance isn't where it needs to be. They're being asked to do too much. So it helps with business leaders, even the ones that So our forecasting, for instance, needs to have a good initiative intake. So if you're getting beaten up because you didn't meet service level, but marketing never tells you what's coming, if you don't understand new products or the system changes, but you get beaten up over it, it actually does let you bring to the table some of the upstream organizations, finance, marketing, product development, IT. You can kind of be able to say, you have a role in this. So we made sure that the maturity model helped cover that. And then really, it's a tool to show you're a leader. So you're using a tool. It's free to you to do the self-service. So we want to make sure that you have an ability to be able to kind of assess where you are. Okay. So what does it look like? So this is kind of an eye chart. Can you guys see that? It's not too bad.
It's a lot bigger behind us.
It's a lot bigger behind us. So the maturity model, we have 6 pillars. We call these the pillars. There's a survey for each one of these pillars. So your business goals, that's kind of what sets you up for what you're going to support. The people in organization category, workforce optimization, quality management, which everyone gets confused, that also includes training, CSAT, DSAT. Operational management, this is your structure, how you manage on a regular basis, and then how the contact center technology you use, how mature is it? It's not an assessment of your technology at a deep dive level, but it is, we look at, is the agent's desktop usable? How is their life using these tools? How is your life managing to get the reports you need? So the way the model is structured, and I promised you that you would see that there are different levels that we assess you. So that rubric, we can have a not requested or not relevant, not rated because you're not really sure how to do it. And then there's different levels. So your first level is really a base awareness. And that is, I'll use training as an example. I know I need to train people. I have an on-the-job training checklist, and it takes 6 months for us to get somebody up to speed. So that would be your base aware. And then you have the next stage, which is developing. So you've got a little bit more structure and content to it. The next one is practicing. So you're really using that. And then you get to the optimizing. And then you finally get to what we call leading. What's interesting, I listened to the CX1 presentation on Enhance. So we do have AI embedded in this. So you won't see us talking about being in those upper echelons of the index until you're using some AI type technologies. We revise this every 6 months. And I will tell you, since we developed this 3 years ago, the amount of AI that's starting to get incorporated to be in those high levels is important. So that was a fantastic tool they showed us, right? I'm sure all of you were like, yeah, I'd love to have it. But you just don't turn it on. You have to have the people with the expertise and the knowledge to be able to use a tool like that. So again, when we look at the people who are performing functions, they have to be able to evolve. So a good example would be like QA. You move from manual QA to a more AI-based QA, but you've got to have a QA-minded person tuning that and training it. So, I hear a lot of people, my clients say, AI is going to eliminate our jobs. It's not. It's just going to be, you have to have the people that know how to best use those tools. So that is a component of what we have. So you would simply, in the survey, it doesn't look like this. You would get an output that looks like this. But the survey, it's just an online Microsoft Forms survey. You would just fill it out and you would rate yourself. And then we would be able to give you a report that looks like this. I will tell you, we've had clients give us feedback. There's a color scale. We can use the same color of blue. And then, the darker you get, the better you are. The lighter cut blue you get, you have some work to do. This is an example of a client that went beyond just the self-service. They actually had us come in and do an assessment, and we made some recommendations. So the little color that's embedded under each one of those items is our recommendation on where they could go. But you would get this type of a report. These are an eye chart, but this shows you how detailed. I believe there's 82. We just added we're adding an 83rd one in the June release of our survey. But this is how detailed we get. So it isn't just those top level boxes that I showed you. There's a lot of detail underneath it. This is an example of a company that wanted to have, I want to see red, yellow, green. I want my team or my executives to understand how much help I need. It's not uncommon for companies to be at this level. And I want to stress, we aren't trying to say everybody needs to get to green. You have to make that decision on what's the most important thing for you. Really large corporations can afford some of the AI technologies that really would drive you to get to that.
Cheryl, is there a situation where for a particular industry or for a particular type of contact center, green's not even appropriate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not even appropriate. Because green does have a lot of AI embedded in it, and we don't expect everybody to have that technology. However, we will give you, when the way it's written, we want to see that you are using the technology you have. So an example might be if you are recording calls, that you have a QA form or a process that looks at what are the drivers of dissatisfaction. So those are the things that you would want to see if you are monitoring. Obviously, if you went to AI, you would you would pick up that form you have, and then that would be your basis for starting your tuning and your training. So, do you have any other questions that you want to ask me?
I'd like to get questions from the audience. I saw a lot of engagement and folks reading that. I think if you actually, let's go back a couple of slides ago. Yeah, let's maybe pause there for a second. So, first of all, how many of you folks have done something like this in this level of detail? Is there a hand? I don't know. Okay. I can't see him from here. All right. What's your reaction to this? I mean, how long does it take to complete the survey, Cheryl?
Very often what we do is back to these 6 pillars. So what we do is you can kind of see, you might want different, your workforce management, for instance, might do the workforce one. Your quality management would be your quality leader and your training leader. So each one of the surveys themselves, you can put supporting evidence, can be anywhere from, if you read it and you understand it, 15 minutes to maybe 30 minutes. Overall.
Each module.
Yeah, each module.
I've run through it. So it looks daunting, but this self-assessment really isn't. Danny, how long did it take you? Less than an hour? So Danny did 4 modules that he runs at his call center in less than an hour. And you do get a lot of detail back. You, like Cheryl said too, you can add information in at the bottom of the questions, which is
right.
Which is really handy.
Because you might say, I'm not real sure. Let me explain what I do. And we'll go in and we'll help you and we'll give you a rating of where you are.
Right. So it's not the intent here is not to make it a giant time consuming effort. It's really when you get the email that you've accepted and you want to take the assessment, there's literally 6 URLs, one for each of the pillars. And like Cheryl said, you can pass those URLs if you have a workforce management person, if you have a technology person, you can pass it to different people, have them do it themselves. Once all the data is in the portal, then we do the finished product assessment.
Correct.
Yeah. And if you take the assessment, then we'll compile the results for you and you'll have a beautiful, easy to understand report that's output from that. And I was going to say more, but you've got a question. So I'm going to.
What is the recommended sample size? It's a self-assessment. What number of people would you recommend take it? And what happens if there's a major gap of understanding? I understand that this is looking at the what, but then what do you do in terms of a misalignment with different roles or groups about how they see things internally?
Good question. So we'll take each individual and we'll meet with the person that will call you the sponsor, and we'll say, which score should we take? So that's why when we first give it to you, we say, give it to the person you believe is the correct one to rate it. So like I've had a client that she managed the overall organization and she did the score, and then she asked her people to do it. She reviewed their scores and then created the one score for them. So it's not a sample. So I definitely would not be sending this to every QA person, for instance. You're really giving it to the leader who understands the strategy behind that vertical, who is managing it and knows what the results are. Does that help? Okay.
It's kind of a play off of this gentleman's question, and it's twofold. One is, all right, you give us this report. What do we do with it? And then the second part of it is what seems to be missing, and this is just me, is sort of the customer, the client end of this to tell you whether or not what's the impact of this, or what do they know that you should know as part of this looking and analyzing your contact center operations.
So this is an operational view. We do ask questions about how you manage CSAT, DSAT. So it is a one-sided. It isn't meant to survey your customers. I mean, that is another product we have, but it is important. We built this so that we can help you understand without having to go to your customers. You already get enough data about your customers' satisfaction, dissatisfaction. What are you doing with that data? But really good point.
But same question, what do we do with this? What do we do with this data?
Okay, what do you do with this data? So let me go back to this slide. So this customer, I'm going to have to turn around and look at the little ones. So their vendor management strategy, they were 100% outsourced. And so they were not having the results that they wanted. And so we felt like they needed to focus on that right away, because the end result, they weren't getting the performance. So you basically, when we work with clients to be able to figure out which ones they need to work on, you'll see that we help them understand what's the next step. But you can do that too. You can go in and look at it and this shows me, I'm outsourcing, but I don't have all of these things that are part of the maturity matrix in my vendor management. I don't do these things. So it gives you an indication of the things you might need to do.
The clients of mine that have used this and have gone through this process, it's the same thing. They say, well, what do we do next with this? So there's a second part of this type of engagement where we can come in and build a transformation roadmap. Some folks, again, to Cheryl's point, it may be obvious to you, and you may not need any third-party advice to say, here are the things you should focus on. But our experts can come in and say, here's how you ought to prioritize these decisions. And how we set priority on these are going to have a lot to do with, obviously, low-hanging fruit. Where's the fastest ROI? What's the easiest to address? But Cheryl, how else might we help somebody prioritize improvement?
So let me go back. I just want to show you, because I just realized I have the operational management one. So when you get to leading, what we see is a really good vendor management structure that you've gone through. You've created operating guidelines and RACIs that explain what the role is in all three parties, basically. So basically, you take the mystery out of throwing it over the fence. So I think if you read these, you can see where you could go. I was kind of focused on looking at that slide, but I'm not really directly answering your question. But I can't help but stress when you read it, you realize where your rating would be, and then you know what you need to do in order to be able to get to that next level.
Then the question is, can you do that? Right? Do you have the people in house that know how to build those tools, or do you need someone to come help you? Yeah.
And we can help. I mean, I'll tell you, when we get to the technology ones, very often we have people that are like, man, I would love to have a unified agent desktop, but I have no idea how to get to that. But we know that would help your agents. So, sometimes it does lead to more engagement with our company.
Other questions? It's got to be one more.
How do you access the survey? We send you a link. I mean, that's what we did. We send you an email explaining how you would want to fill it out. It gives a little bit more details, kind of to the question about who should fill these out. And then it's simply a URL linked to all 6 of them. You complete it, and then we send you back your results. It's yours. So it's not a URL that we send it back to you. We actually have a PowerPoint that we send you.
Yeah, and we're not, the other piece too, it is just a question survey. We're not looking for data. There's no proprietary data that we take. So there's none of that in here. It's really a tool to what do we do with the data when we get it back? What I see a lot is there's disconnects in organizations, right? So an executive may think we have the greatest vendor management group on planet Earth, but the people in vendor management know that they need some help.
Correct.
In a certain area. So when you fill out the survey and you say, we have these things, but we don't have really specific RACI diagrams, then you're not on the leading edge. You're in the middle. And that's how our customers use that to go up to management and say, I need this. If we want to get here, I need this project funded, and our return on investment is going to be X.
Correct.
So that's the value of this. It's really I shouldn't use the word quick, right? But it's an executive level overview on the 6 pillars that we measure in the data center.
Right.
And I think it does add a lot of value.
Yeah, I think one of the other ones that our clients like is the forecasting. Kind of what I said, if you don't get all the intake to be able to properly forecast, then you end up with a situation because you're not meeting service level or customer satisfaction metrics. And so that one is one that we very often see go back and really, really fine tune. We use this on a very major online entertainment company, and that was eye-opening to the executives. And they have completely revamped their forecasting methodology because they didn't realize how much that mattered to the customer service organizations. So, okay.
And keep in mind that this is generally part of a broader project that we'll complete for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've done for NECCF to bring some value to you guys is to break this out into this self-service. You can come by our booth right after this. We'll get you signed up for the survey, and you'll get these results. There's no charge for this. And we think with the caliber of folks that are here, you're going to get a lot of value out of this without needing additional help. If you need additional help, of course, we're there for that too. Other questions?
So I think the last thing I want to tell you is I've actually worked for one of the major companies that certifies to a standard. What I found painful as a user of that standard was expensive, was complicated. So what we tried to do was build something that was directionally something you could do something with without having to have a certified auditor come in and audit your results. We know you're smart. I know you're smart. And I know you know where you stand. So it was just important for us to do it. It is the basis for a lot of our engagements. We first come in with this. So Dave's right. It's kind of our gift to you. We put it in a model and a process that lets you be able to use it. Okay. No
Anything
other
else?
questions.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.